The actual angle of the pull is quite important for propulsion. The thing we're going to try to master, can we generate power? How to swim faster in general, in the pool and open water. But get used to recruiting a lot of propulsion as well. And Farah's going to talk a lot about that. This is how we really start generating power. We want to try to hold a lot of water, but not just holding a lot of water. Can we actually move it backwards through our body? We want to tie it to our body. And it's very hard to feel that. We usually kind of talk about keeping your arms a bit more closer to your body to generate a bit more power through your body that's a little bit more sustainable. If you go with straight arms, it's almost impossible under the water. Now, sometimes people are so focused on the perfect catch that they're so tired they take their hand out here. You see a lot of people swimming almost out in front to just past their shoulder. Then you've missed all the magic propulsion, right? What I want you to be able to do is know when you're ready to set up. It's finding this position because that's when you apply power. It's directly under your shoulders. And directly under your shoulders is important where your elbows are. Your elbows should be in line with your shoulders, in line with your wrist. If they fall behind, look what starts happening in my forearm. This early vertical forearm is late horizontal forearm, right? We want to keep the elbows forward. So we want to see, can we generate power? The thing we're going to try to master is that we actually push the water out and in, but we go forward. But I want you to have the idea that you're in control of the water. That in the pull, you're not slipping and trying to find it, but you can feel the build up from 1 gear, 2 gear, 3 gear as you pull and swim.
So when you're sculling, you're essentially frosting icing on a cake. You want your palm applying pressure towards the bottom. If you're constantly applying pressure down, and that's why you're floating right now. So I want us to think about applying that same concept of frosting the icing on the top of the cake, and we're gonna just start to tilt our bodies forward, and eventually we'll be horizontal and we'll make our way to the other end.
So we have a great pressure on our hands and forearms, but when we do that scull, our elbows should be locked. It should be none of this movement. So that's why when we swim, we don't want to be moving our elbows up and down. We kind of enter, we catch, but we lock that elbow to the back. That's why we want to keep those elbows high, and then we transfer the power backwards. Hand in, hold the water from when you enter and feel that mid position, that power position, while you push back past your hip.
As a swimmer, we want to be efficient as we move through the water by swimming through multiple gears. That applies to not just in competition, but also in training. So being able to have like 10 different gears is super important for not only feeling comfortable in the water at different speeds, but also being able to push yourself, and my favorite, making the workouts more interesting. We actually have way more than 10 gears. We have maybe 100 gears at our disposal. But today, we're gonna focus on 3 gears. So gear 1 is smooth. We're taking very methodical strokes. We're not trying very hard. We're swimming very efficiently. We have high maximum distance per stroke. We're not taking fast strokes, we're taking long, strong strokes, and we're thinking about silent swimming. So the sound that our fingertips make when they enter the water, there is no sound. We're very, very efficient. Gear 2, we pick up the pace, we're swimming a little bit stronger, we have more power per stroke, but we still have max distance per stroke. So we're still stretching it out, the strokes are long, but we're applying power and strength to those strokes. And then gear 3, we are prioritizing speed and tempo and agility over everything else. So we're still gonna have good stroke technique. We're not throwing this out the window, but we're gonna focus on speed, tempo, and agility. Shutting it down is just as difficult as speeding it up. And that's really important to changing gears. Push off the wall, maximum speed. Take your first stroke right here, your second stroke right here, and then you shut it off right here. From here to the other end, I shouldn't hear any swimming right here. Ah, there it is. Yeah, there it is. In that last 5 meters, if you're going as fast as possible, if you're in speed, tempo, agility, do you need to take a breath for 5 meters? I'm a big proponent of like not swimming as much, but really focusing your effort for any kind of training that you're doing. Whether you want to be fast in a 25 meter or 25K, if you can really focus your training, you don't have to do as much of it. And for people like me who get bored very easily, it adds some good variety.
One thing I want to point out about what you've just been doing here and how important this kind of training is. Some people naturally have kind of more type 2 muscle fiber, but when you do a lot of endurance exercise, you start moving those fiber types towards these type 1. They become very efficient in movement. And they're not in a hurry, right? They're smart. They know to wait for a long point of time. But I hear so many people tell me, I can swim forever, but I can't swim any faster. I can't change gears. And yeah, we can talk about technique, but a lot of it's down to how you're training. And these short bursts, what they do is they help those fiber types, those type 2 fibers that are probably asleep during all your long endurance bikes and runs and swims, it wakes them back up. And it becomes really important, but it is difficult because we body doesn't really want to do it. We're not used to doing it. But when you start activating them, you start feeling fresher all the time. And there's a really big bonus to this. The easiest way to swim faster is practice swimming faster. Seems straightforward.
When you're trying to swim fast, you're using every muscle of your body. What better way to activate more is to just put some resistance on that. When you go to the gym, you go to the weight room, you want to get stronger. Yeah, you could do push-ups, but eventually you're going to plateau, and to build strength, you're going to need to add some weight. And so you start to do bench press, and you continue to layer on more and more resistance. Parachutes are the best way to do that because you can swim your stroke without changing anything. Paddles or fins, these are different forms of resistance, but they change your stroke. Paddles change one part of your body. They make your hands bigger. The fins make your feet bigger. So what that does is it doesn't give you the most realistic feeling of how you are in the water. When you have a parachute, you basically have this thing that's just gonna slow you down equally everywhere. So your pull's gonna get the same resistance as your feet, your body position, everything is just getting pulled back. It's very easy to now push into like over fatigue, and that part makes you slower, especially in the short term. So you want to find that balance. Your body is demanding oxygen. So when you try and do this with good technique, max distance per stroke, max power, and you're not breathing, that's where you get the physiological gain. That's how you become a stronger athlete, swimmer, aerobic capacity, all that good stuff.
So what I'm going to go through now is some technique. We talked about rotational power. And this rotational power of tying your arms to your body roll is hard to think about. And swimming becomes a lot about timing. It'll be quite fine to just pull your arm back, but it starts getting tiring. Just your arm pulling by itself. Especially over distance or to generate a lot of power, we want to bring your body into it. What we mean by that is when you reach, rather than the arm just initiating, we catch, but we wait for your body. So instead of flexing here and that arm slipping that we call it in the water, we catch, but then we lock that to our back and we just rotate it back. So rather than doing this, right, we catch, lock, and rotate. You can see I'm not really even flexing my arm, I'm just locking it to my body. Right, but when we pull, it's not very helpful to keep our shoulder blades reaching the whole time. We've got to make sure we bring them into our back, right? So instead of reaching here, you're going to squeeze your chest out. And this is why we talk about a swimmer's back. They're generally muscular. Why? Because we use it. We got into this mid-skull. Right under your chest, squeeze your shoulders back. And now, to get this back, this is a perfect angle and line. You can see his scapular line from one elbow almost to the next. Rather than pulling it back, what you're going to do is he's just going to rotate, woof, and pull, woof. And all we're trying to do is hold that level, and rather than pulling with your arm, we're dropping with your body. Ready? And rotate. One under, one over. Wait for your body. You'll be fully rolled in. Don't start to roll back. Roll and pull. Reach and catch, but don't start pulling. Roll and pull. Wait for your body. Now we have to really get our weight behind our body. So there's one thing is timing your hands with your body roll. The other is really feeling it, right? And actually generating force back, right? We've got to make sure that we almost lean our entire body weight onto our arms so we can feel that as we roll and pull, we can feel our whole body weight being pulled forward. So the drill we're going to do now is the board pull drill. We're going to use a kickboard as your hand paddle. Now you're going to grab it, have it sideways just over your forearm. We want to be able to get your body weight onto your paddle, onto your arms. So to do this, anything you've learned about stroke length at the moment, we're probably going to forget a little bit. If we enter with this paddle, we're going to start lifting ourselves up. Now that's not very efficient. We want to make sure we keep our body line. So we've got to tie our body weight to the board. We're going to make our arms quite small to do that. So when we're swimming, I want you to enter and I want you to roll your body weight over the board. That's going to bring it right underneath you and keep your body high. Because as you roll it in and your other arm comes over, as it falls, it's just going to turn out popping behind you. The way to do it wrong is to just try to move your arms. You lift up, it'll be horrible. But if you start rolling it in and rolling around it to get out, we start transforming how we move through the water. Let's see what happens. Even though you can see some of the best swimmers, they enter, but their hand doesn't look like they're moving. But really it is. It's moving forward because as you enter, they reach through your shoulder blade. If you do this, lock out and have no movement, you really lose the pressure on the water. What we want to do is have this continuous feel. So as one hand enters and reaches, and this hand exits. So I have pressure, backwards pressure on this hand. As it starts exiting the water, I almost push myself into the next stroke. See this? As these fingertips come out, I start pushing these fingertips down. So I always have some kind of leverage on the water. This stroke helps the next. The most powerful part is the finish of the stroke. That helps the weakest point, the catch of the stroke. So you're pushing yourself onto this side. A lot better way to think about it is that I anchor my hand here, and my body, when I pull, is all of a sudden up here. And where does my hand exit? The perfect efficient catch will mean my hand won't have moved at all. If I reach here and exit there, and my body's in the same position, it's completely inefficient. When we pull, we bring our body around our arm. And when we exit, our bodies move forward, but our hand has basically almost grabbed onto an anchor. Endurance swimming sometimes is forgotten about, right? The easiest way to swim faster is practice swimming faster. Seems straightforward.